I worked at the Volunteer Center a couple of years ago now, a year and a half ago. I ran the center, and when the Great Recession happened, I thought to myself, oh my God, this is the time that nonprofits are going to be squeezed to such a degree that they're going to have to rely on volunteers, capacity building volunteers, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. And so I went out and I spoke, and we do different sessions. But here's the thing. I found out that most nonprofits, many of them, not all certainly, were running harder and faster, doing the same thing that they've done in the past. So there was more need, there was less money, and the impact on volunteers and staff was basically people were strained. So that seems like a challenge. So as we said, all of the energy going into the fundraising, and of course trying to save costs wherever folks could. The whole issue of engaging volunteers in leadership capacity and in skill volunteering was not seen as critical. And for those few nonprofits that had rainy day funds, certainly they have been tapping into them. But what else to do? So the issue, when I think of volunteer engagement, you know, I think of, you know how there's all the talk now about natural gas, our savior, you know, and I think of volunteer engagement the same way, that it's the idea of how do we unlock this resource that's sort of trapped there and see it and be able to basically and leverage that existing resource by fracking that and releasing the volunteer engagement and allowing people to be leaders in ways that they haven't been or maybe been open to. So what we're going to, if I were to say the most important thing for this session, will have the PowerPoints available on my website, and I'm always happy to talk to any. I'm just crazy about this stuff, sort of. I don't know why, but it's my passion. So here's the case. Today what we're going to do, and I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly, let it soak in. You know, it's going to be more, what I want you to leave more with was thinking, what are some ways that we could change the way that we work with volunteers, or expand, I should say. All volunteering is good. How to build capacity. I'm going to talk about 3 trends that I'm seeing in a report that I did recently, and some recommendations, and then sort of how to leave with a framework for success. This report that I did was with the Center for Nonprofit Advancement. And so I won't go into great detail now, but to say that I used a variety of screens to come up with 9 nonprofits that are leveraging volunteers in amazing ways. I will illustrate some of those in the presentation. And there's also a 37-page report that I wrote having all the case studies, examples, the results of these nonprofits.
There's more Montgomery Community Media's NPO Day when we return.
Montgomery Community Media makes it easier than ever to search for and view great Access 19 and Montgomery Channel programs. Shows you want to watch when you're ready to watch them, all in one convenient location. Simply go to mymcmedia.org and hit On Demand. You're one click away from thousands of great locally produced shows for the whole family. Stay in the loop and stay connected with mymcmedia.org. Never off, always on demand.
So, nonprofit capacity challenges we've seen so much of. There's a lot of research out there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over all of these statistics, but the bottom line is that so many nonprofits aren't able to really have the capacity to do the work. They're so busy delivering the direct service that the actual feeding the organization, training the staff, giving the back-end resources, it's something that will happen at another day. Even training the board and supporting the board and supporting the volunteers is something that's just not happening. Yeah, 79% spend less than 2% of their budget supporting infrastructure. I don't want to get into all the details about how they define that, but I think you get the point. And so so at the same time that all this is happening, nonprofits are challenged. They're saying, well, look, we need volunteers. Of course we need as many skilled volunteers as we could get. But at the same time, many of these nonprofits are saying, but we don't have the time to do this. Of course we could use those folks. But it's just not seen something that's really attainable. So the thing that's happening is that most nonprofits, through the research, a variety of different research studies that have been done, one of the most recent is Reimagining Service, which is how to reframe volunteer engagement. The bottom line is that a very small percentage of nonprofits really feel that they're fully leveraging volunteers and utilizing them well. And this is data that was done in a variety of different ways, and I can share in more detail about that. But as you can see, only 13% felt they provided sufficient resources for volunteer engagement. But here's the thing that some of the research is also showing, that if you engage enough volunteers and if you invest enough money in working with volunteers, that the payout can be significantly stronger. And significantly in this way is actually statistically significant. But look, only 11% of nonprofits met that, and this is through Reimagining Service report. So, so the bottom line is volunteering can be a major area in helping to build capacity. And the other studies have shown, for example, that National Council on the Aging, that through self-directed teams and using volunteers actually to orient and train other volunteers, that a huge return on investment can be made. But a lot of this has to do, I was talking with a guest just a little bit earlier, was the issue of ownership. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, perhaps the way that we could help senior management in our nonprofits to think a little bit differently about this whole piece is really, let's say, the gold mine example, or the golden opportunities. A recent study by Fidelity that volunteers contribute 10 times more than non-volunteers. Amazing. Who would have thought? It makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. The other thing is that for the volunteers that are working in our agencies, about 2/3 of them are volunteering and giving to that same organization. So that myth of I volunteered and I don't want to give you anything, that does not really hold. Matter of fact, people feel more a connection when they're asked, would you be willing to support us as well? So many of you who are in the nonprofit field have seen this number here. So look, most giving is by individuals. And corporations, although many nonprofits will try to chase after the foundation money and the corporate money, which is really quite limited. To add to this, we have so many people who are the older volunteers who are really trying to make decisions on what legacy do they want to leave. And to the degree that they are involved and engaged, that's where the real money is. And for senior management, volunteering is important, but how do we help them see that this is an area that could be of great benefit for the organization, monetarily, and of course, others as well. So this, I tried to boil down, I came up with this term, the spectrum of volunteering, to illustrate, and of course, you're going to look at it and say, well, seems to make sense. But it's helped me personally, and when I talk to groups, to think about sort of to what degree are we utilizing volunteers in all the different areas that folks could be involved in. And so the question becomes, as you go around the circle, is our nonprofit making a conscious decision about how we're involving volunteers? It doesn't mean you have to have volunteers in every area. You might say, our organization really does not lend itself to episodic volunteering. It just doesn't. But the decision is made one way or the other. And so one of the things I hope that is a contribution to the field is if you look at the top area, so you look at board members and look at skilled volunteering and program leader volunteers. These are areas that many nonprofits tend to go to the wayside. Increasingly, thanks to groups like Taproot and like Compass, skilled volunteering through the business community is definitely increasing. and that's great. But what most nonprofits need, as you all know, it's volunteers that come back, that become involved with us, that love us, that want to be with us. And so that's basically, when we put this together, it's thinking about strategic volunteering, thinking about the whole piece. All the pieces do fit together, and as we'll find out, people move around in different areas in this. And the other main area that I'd want to emphasize is the program leader volunteers. It's different necessarily than skilled volunteering that have a particular thing that they do really well and can provide that value and service. So the idea of the program leader volunteer is somebody who's actually managing or helping supporting other volunteers, that they actually have ownership and can run a program. And the report that I did showed that.